You made it here, and you do not have to arrive in any special way. You can just listen, even if your mind is busy, even if your body is not fully settled yet. Just listening is enough. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And if part of you still feels a little wired or a little watchful, that is okay. If your thoughts keep showing up, that is okay too. You do not have to push them away. You do not have to do anything with them. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. You do not have to concentrate. You do not have to find the perfect feeling. You do not have to follow every word. If you miss a few sentences, that is completely okay. If your attention drifts for a while, it can drift. If it comes back for a moment, that can be enough. You are not behind. You are not doing it wrong. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. If sleep comes quickly, you can let it. If sleep takes its time, you can let that be okay too. Either way, you are welcome here. For now, notice that you are allowed to do less. Allowed to soften your effort. Allowed to stop bracing, even a little. And you can let this moment be simple. No catching up. No proving. No need to be ready. And if it helps, you can treat my voice like a steady presence beside you, not asking anything from you, just keeping you company while everything loosens on its own. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Stay with me or drift. Either is fine. You can rest in between the words. You can let the quiet parts do some of the work. And whenever you are ready, you can simply keep easing. And whenever you feel ready, you can keep easing. If there is a tiny adjustment that would make you more comfortable, you can take it now. Maybe it is just letting your shoulders drop a little closer to where they already want to rest. Maybe it is letting your hands find a quieter place, or letting your jaw unclench by one small degree. And if your body is already settled enough, you can skip all of that. You are allowed to do less. And if it is not settled yet, if there is still a little restlessness or a little alertness moving through you, that is okay too. Some nights, the body takes longer to believe it is allowed to rest. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Now let your body be heavy in the place where it is resting. Not pushing down, just being held. Supported underneath and gently bordered around. If you like, you can imagine a quilted cradle close to you. Not a new place, just a soft, padded boundary right here, in the few inches around your body. Warmth, thickness, and a kind of steady weight that does not press. It only reassures. And it can be simple. Just the sense that you are welcomed in the exact shape you are tonight. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Notice where your body meets what is beneath you. The back of the head, the shoulders, the spine and hips, the backs of the legs, the heels and the soles of the feet, resting in their own quiet way. And the hands too, wherever they are, with nothing they need to hold up anymore. Each point of contact can feel a little more received. And around those contact points, that quilted cradle can feel tucked in, like gentle padding that knows how to make room for you, like a soft edge that says, you can take up space. If you notice your chest rising and falling, that can be part of it too. The cradle making space on the inhale and staying close on the exhale without you doing anything at all. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. If your breath feels noticeable, you can let the cradle respond with you. On in, there is a little more room. On in, there is a little more settling. No effort required. Just the simplest rhythm carried. And if you cannot feel that clearly, if it is faint or numb or just hard to notice, that is still okay. You can simply imagine the idea of being supported and let that be enough. If thoughts pass through, they can pass through. The cradle does not need you to manage them. You can be held, even with a busy mind. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And as you rest here, notice the quiet permission in your body. Permission to soften. Permission to be supported. Permission to stop bracing, just for now. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Stay with my voice if you want, or drift in and out of it. Either way, you are still held, close and warm, exactly where you are. And from here, we can let the breath be the easiest anchor. Not a project, not something to perfect. Just the breath you already have, moving in its own simple way. If it helps, you can notice where the breath is most obvious tonight. Maybe at the nostrils, maybe in the chest, maybe in the belly. And if it is not obvious anywhere, that is okay. you can just rest in the idea of breathing, the knowing that it is happening, without needing to feel it clearly. Let the quilted cradle keep holding you while the breath comes and goes. Supported underneath, gently bordered around. You might notice the and then the next and the next. No need to make the breath deep. No need to slow it down on purpose. Just allowing the body to discover that it can breathe without bracing. And if your breathing naturally begins to lengthen, even by a little, you can let that happen. Like a sigh that does not have to announce itself. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. As you notice you might let it be a soft signal to release. Not pushing anything away. Just letting a little weight drain out of the body on the exhale. On the next exhale, you could allow the forehead to smooth as much as it is willing. And if it is not willing yet, that is fine. The breath can keep moving either way. On another exhale, you might let the space around the eyes soften, not forcing the eyelids to feel heavy, just letting them rest the way they want to rest. On another exhale, you can let the tongue lie more quietly in the mouth, and let the jaw be unworked. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Now the throat. You can let it be open and easy, with no need to hold the voice inside. And the shoulders. On in, you might allow them to sink into their place, as if they are remembering they are allowed to be carried. If a thought passes through, you do not have to follow it. You do not have to finish it, solve it, or even understand why it showed up. You can simply notice thinking, and then return very gently to the next exhale. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Let the chest receive the breath without effort. The ribs making a little room on the inhale. And on the exhale, settling back, like letting go of a strap that was never required. Now the belly. If it rises, it rises. If it does not, it does not. You are still breathing. You are still held. And the hands, as you might let the fingers loosen by one small degree, not making them limp, just letting them stop trying to help. If your attention wanders away for a while, that is allowed. You can drift. You can come back each return can be simple. Just inhale, exhale. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Now let the breath and the cradle work together. The cradle holding you steady so the breath can slow on its own. And the breath, in turn, helping the body believe the holding. On an exhale, you might allow the upper back to spread and settle. On another exhale, the lower back can soften, even slightly, into what supports you. And the hips, if there is any gripping there, any subtle holding, you can let the next be permission for that area to be more supported than it was a moment ago. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Now the legs, without moving them at all, you can let the thighs feel less responsible. Let the knees be unguarded. Let the calves fall quiet. And the feet, the soles resting in their own way. The toes not needing to do anything, not even relax perfectly. If another thought arrives, it can arrive. If it stays, it can stay. You are not in a debate with your mind tonight. You are resting while it moves. And whenever you notice you have been carried off by thinking, you can return with tenderness to the feeling of being held, to the next natural breath. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And for a few breaths, you can let my words be in the background. You do not have to listen closely. Just letting the breath come in and letting the breath go out. Held underneath, softly bordered around. Breathing, slowing on its own. If it feels nicer tonight, you can let that sense of holding be simple. Like being supported without needing to picture it. And as the breath keeps happening in its own quiet way, you can let that simple holding become even more certain. Under you, the quilted cradle. Around you, a gentle boundary you do not have to maintain. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. You can imagine that boundary as a soft light, close to the skin, close to the edges of the blanket. Not bright, not dramatic, just steady. And you do not have to hold the light in place. You do not have to keep it strong. It can be there on its own, like a steady kindness that does not get tired. If imagining light is not natural tonight, that is completely okay. You can simply sense the idea of it. A quiet yes around you. A simple permission for your body to stay resting and for your mind to loosen its grip. And if your mind only loosens for a second, that counts too. Even a brief softening is still a softening. The rest can come in its own time. And in this moment, before anything else, let this be true. You are safe enough to rest. Safe enough to stop trying. Safe enough to be held exactly as you are. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. If it feels comforting, you can let that surrounding light feel like quiet protection. Not protection from something specific, just the feeling of being gently contained. Like warm edges that keep you from having to roam. And you might notice how different it feels to be supported instead of braced. Not forcing a change, just letting the body recognize for a moment that it can put its weight down. And if the mind asks, "What am I supposed to do with this?" you can let the answer be very simple. Nothing. You are allowed to receive it without working for it. Now, only if you like, we can also allow the sense of support to include something a little more than the blanket and the light. Not a figure you need to picture clearly. Not a presence you need to believe in. Just the option of companionship. A quiet sense that benevolent support can be near without needing your attention. You might imagine a few simple points of soft light resting at a comfortable distance, or one gentle glow that feels calm and kind. Or you can skip this entirely and stay with the quilt and the breath and the border of warmth. And if you do imagine it, it can be very subtle. A steadiness in the room. A sense of being quietly accompanied. Nothing more you need to do with it. No one needs anything from you. Nothing is being asked. Nothing is being tested. This is just support that does not require a response. And whether you sense it strongly, faintly, or not at all, you are still held. The quilted cradle keeps doing its job. The light keeps surrounding you in the easiest way. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Now, inside all of this, we can place a very simple intention. Not a goal, not a demand, just a soft statement you can rest into, like a pebble sinking to the bottom of still water. It does not have to feel true yet. You do not have to make it true. You can let it be a direction your nervous system can learn slowly. And the intention is simply this: I am held. I am held. I am held. And again, only if it feels supportive tonight. I am held. Let the words land wherever they land. In the chest, or the belly, or the throat, or nowhere in particular. Even if the mind argues, even if it feels distant, the intention can still rest here quietly. You can feel the quilt beneath you, doing the holding in a physical, uncomplicated way. And you can let the surrounding light do the holding in a softer, wider way. And your only job, if we can even call it that, is to be the one who is held. And if your attention drifts away from the words, the holding stays. If the light fades and returns, the holding stays. If you forget the intention completely for a while, the holding stays. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And for a few breaths, you can let all of this become background. The breath moving, the quilted cradle supporting, the light remaining without effort. If thoughts drift through, they can drift through. If the sense of light comes and goes, it can come and go. The holding does not depend on your concentration. Just this quiet protection, this quiet intention, and the steady permission to rest exactly as you are. And with all of that support already here, we can let the attention move through the body in a simple, steady way. Not searching, not analyzing, just noticing and softening. If it helps, you can imagine a tiny point of gentle light resting in each place I name. not a beam, not a glow that needs effort, just a pinpoint, like the smallest, calmest signal of presence. And if you do not see anything at all, that is fine. You can sense it, or simply imagine the idea of it lightly. We will keep the rhythm even. If your mind wanders, it can wander. When you notice, you can return to the next place I name without needing to go back. And if it feels supportive, you can let the breath be in the background, doing its quiet work all on its own. Each exhale giving the body a little more permission to be heavy. Bring attention to the crown of the head. Soften a tiny point of light. The forehead. Soften a tiny point of light. The space between the eyebrows. Soften a tiny point of light. The left temple. Soften a tiny point of light. The right temple. Soften a tiny point of light. The eyes. Soften a tiny point of light. The cheeks. Soften a tiny point of light. The jaw. Soften a tiny point of light. The tongue. Soften a tiny point of light. The lips. Soften a tiny point of light. The whole face. Soften tiny points of light. And if thoughts pass through, they can pass through. No problem. Bring attention to the back of the head. Soften a tiny point of light. The base of the skull. Soften a tiny point of light. The throat. Soften a tiny point of light. The left side of the neck. Soften a tiny point of light. The right side of the neck. Soften a tiny point of light. The tops of the shoulders. Soften a tiny point of light. And you can let gravity keep holding you while we keep moving steadily. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. left shoulder. Soften a tiny point of light. The right shoulder. Soften a tiny point of light. The left upper arm. Soften a tiny point of light. The left elbow. Soften a tiny point of light. The left forearm. Soften a tiny point of light. The left wrist. Soften a tiny point of light. The left palm. Soften a tiny point of light. The left thumb. Soften a tiny point of light. The left index finger. Soften a tiny point of light. The left middle finger. Soften a tiny point of light. The left ring finger. Soften a tiny point of light. The left little finger. Soften a tiny point of light. The whole left hand. Soften tiny points of light. Now the right upper arm. Soften a tiny point of light. The right elbow. Soften a tiny point of light. The right forearm. Soften a tiny point of light. The right wrist. Soften a tiny point of light. The right palm. Soften a tiny point of light. The right thumb. Soften a tiny point of light. The right index finger. Soften a tiny point of light. The right middle finger. Soften a tiny point of light. The right ring finger. Soften a tiny point of light. The right little finger. Soften a tiny point of light. The whole right hand. Soften tiny points of light. And if you are only half listening now, that is okay. Even half is enough. And even here, you are doing nothing wrong. You can be exactly as you are and still be met with this softness. Across the upper chest, soften a tiny point of light. The center of the chest, soften a tiny point of light. The left side of the chest, soften a tiny point of light. The right side of the chest, soften a tiny point of light. The ribs, soften a tiny point of light. The upper back, soften a tiny point of light. The middle back, soften a tiny point of light. The lower back, soften a tiny point of light. And if it feels good, you can let a simple warmth be in the background too. Not something you have to create. Just the suggestion of ease spreading as you rest. The belly, soften a tiny point of light. The lower belly, soften a tiny point of light. The pelvis, soften a tiny point of light. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. The left hip, soften a tiny point of light. The right hip, soften a tiny point of light. The left thigh, soften a tiny point of light. The left knee, soften a tiny point of light. The left shin, soften a tiny point of light. The left calf, soften a tiny point of light. The left ankle, soften a tiny point of light. The left heel, soften a tiny point of light. The left foot, soften a tiny point of light. The left toes, soften a tiny point of light. The right thigh. Soften a tiny point of light. The right knee. Soften a tiny point of light. The right shin. Soften a tiny point of light. The right calf. Soften a tiny point of light. The right ankle. Soften a tiny point of light. The right heel. Soften a tiny point of light. The right foot. Soften a tiny point of light. The right toes. Soften a tiny point of light. Now the backs of the legs. Soften a tiny point of light. Behind the knees. Soften a tiny point of light. The backs of the calves. Soften a tiny point of light. The soles of the feet. Soften a tiny point of light. And you can let all of it be easy. If you miss a word or two, you are still safe here. And now, the whole body at once. Softening tiny points of light, resting everywhere without you arranging them. And just for a moment, you can let that whole body sense be enough. Warmth, weight, breath, and light, all resting together. If attention slips away, it can. And if it returns, it returns. The body stays supported, just as it is. For a few breaths, you can simply rest with the sense of those points of light, quiet and steady, doing nothing at all. And you do not have to earn this rest. You can just receive it exactly as you are. And with that whole body softness already here, we can let everything simplify even more. No more scanning. No more moving from place to place. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Just one quiet point and the natural breath. If it still feels like you are resting in comfort, you can let that comfort be plain now. The quilted warmth can fade into the background, not disappearing, just becoming so familiar you do not have to notice it. And if your mind wants something to do, something gentle and simple, bring your attention to the point at the brow, the space between the eyebrows, the mind's eye, if you like that name, or just the brow point. You do not have to see it clearly. You do not have to feel anything dramatic there. It can be nothing more than the idea of a point. A single pinpoint of gentle light. Not bright, not busy, just calm presence resting at the brow. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And now, without changing the breath, you can let the breath seem to move through that point. As if the inhale passes in through the brow point, and the exhale passes back out through the same place. Not like you are pushing air into your forehead. Just a soft imagining. A gentle direction of attention. Inhale through the brow point. Exhale through the brow point. And while that happens, the body can stay heavy and still. The shoulders do not need to help. The jaw does not need to hold. The belly can rise and fall in its own easy way. Inhale in through that quiet point. Exhale out through that quiet point. And if you are not sure you are doing it, that is okay too. This can be seen or sensed or simply known as a gentle idea. Any of those is enough. If you notice yourself trying to do it perfectly, you can let the effort soften. If it becomes fuzzy, that is fine. If you lose it for a while, also fine. You can simply return when you remember. Inhale through the brow point. Exhale through the brow point. And if returning feels like too much in a given moment, you can just rest where you are. The breath will still be breathing. The body will still be supported. And the quiet point can wait for you patiently. And you might notice that when attention rests in one place, everything else starts to settle around it. The whole body quietly organizing itself into ease. Not because you make it happen, just because you are no longer asking the body to do so much. Inhale in through the brow point. Exhale out through the brow point. If thoughts drift through, they can drift through. Like a door opening and closing somewhere far down the hallway of the mind. You do not have to get up. You do not have to follow. You just come back to the one quiet point. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And if it helps, you can let the exhale carry a sense of release down through the whole body without tracking it. No route to follow. No places to check. Just the feeling that the exhale loosens everything all at once. Inhale through the brow point. Exhale through the brow point. You might imagine that the pinpoint of light at the brow stays the same size, unchanging, steady, and the breath simply brushes past it again and again. Not building, not intensifying, just returning. Inhale in through that point. Exhale out through that point. And if you are only half aware of the words now, that is enough. The practice can keep happening in the simplest way. One point, one breath. If you forget completely, you can forget. Rest is allowed. And whenever you notice, you can gently return to the brow point without going back over anything. Inhale through the brow point. Exhale through the brow point. And even now, you can let it be imperfect. A near miss still counts as returning. A faint sense still counts as a point. And if there is only the breath with no clear point at all, that can still be enough to rest with. All the comfort around you can remain uncomplicated. A simple warmth, a quiet support beneath you, the sense of being held without needing to picture how. And if it helps to remember it, you can let that held feeling be like a steady boundary around the whole body. Nothing you have to maintain. Just something already here, staying with you as you rest. And inside that support, the mind's eye point is just a resting place. A soft center for attention. Not a task. Not a test. Inhale in through the brow point. Exhale out through the brow point. Let that be the only thing you do, if you can call it doing. The breath moving, the point staying calm, the whole body staying heavy and safe. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And when you are ready, you can let the words thin out in your mind. The breath and the single quiet point can stay. Or even that can become very easy, almost nothing at all. And from this simple resting place, the point at the brow and the natural breath, we can add one more gentle pattern. Only if it feels easy. And if you are coming into this a little tired, or a little restless, or already half drifting, that is all welcome here. You do not have to be focused in a perfect way to be held by this. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. The body can keep resting in that quilted warmth, supported, heavy in the best way. And this is all imaginal, all soft attention. No need to chase a sensation. And you are safe as you rest here. safe to be sleepy, safe to be unsure, safe to let this be very simple. In a moment, we will let attention move in a simple circuit. Just 3 places. Left palm, the mind's eye point at the brow. Right palm. If your hands are not easy to sense, that is okay. You can imagine the idea of palms. Or you can simply know which is left and which is right without effort. And if your mind feels a little impatient with repetition tonight, you do not have to fight that either. Even the feeling of, "This is boring," or "I want to drift," can be allowed to float alongside the breath. And if it helps, you can let your palms feel open in your mind. Relaxed, unclenched. The arms do not need to move. The shoulders can stay loose and uninvolved. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Now we begin very simply. Inhale from the left palm up to the quiet point at the brow. Exhale down from the brow point to the right palm. Inhale, left palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to right palm. Inhale, left palm to brow. Exhale, brow to right palm. No need to make it bright. It can be as faint as a trace, as quiet as a thought that does not ask for words. Inhale, left palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to right palm. And if a thought comes through, you do not have to move around it. You can let the thought be there and still keep the simple loop. Or lose the loop entirely and return when you remember. Inhale, left palm to brow. Exhale, brow to right palm. Inhale, left palm to brow. Exhale, brow to right palm. And if you notice a dreamy gap, a moment where you cannot quite tell where attention went, that is perfectly okay. That is part of resting. When you notice again, you can simply begin again. Inhale, left palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to right palm. Inhale, left palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to right palm. Let the breath stay natural. You are not adjusting it. You are just letting attention ride along. Inhale, left palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to right palm. Inhale, left palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to right palm. And all around it, the quilted comfort stays simple. The weight of the body stays settled. Nothing in you has to wake up for this. Inhale, left palm to brow. Exhale, brow to right palm. And if the repetition starts to feel a little tedious, you can let it be tedious. You can even let the boredom be a sign that you are allowed to soften further. Inhale, left palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to right palm. One more time in this direction. Inhale, left palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to right palm. And now, just as gently, we reverse it. Same simplicity. Same soft rhythm. Inhale from the right palm up to the brow point. Exhale down from the brow point to the left palm. Inhale, right palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to left palm. Inhale, right palm to brow. Exhale, brow to left palm. If you can sense a gentle warmth in the palms, you can let it be there. If you cannot, you do not need it. The imagining alone is enough. And if the warmth comes and goes, that is fine too. If everything feels neutral, that is fine. You are still resting. You are still supported. Inhale, right palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to left palm. Inhale, right palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to left palm. And if the circuit starts to feel automatic, you can let it. As if the breath already knows the way, and attention is simply resting on the path. Inhale, right palm to brow. Exhale, brow to left palm. Inhale, right palm to brow. Exhale, brow to left palm. And if you lose track of which side you are on, you do not have to correct it quickly. You can pause inside for a breath or two and let it reappear in its own time. Inhale, right palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to left palm. Inhale, right palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to left palm. Very easy. Very plain. No effort in the face. No effort in the throat. The body stays quiet under you. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Inhale, right palm to brow point. Exhale, brow point to left palm. And now we let the whole thing go. You do not have to keep the circuit. You do not have to reverse again. You do not have to do anything with the breath at all. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And if there is any part of you that feels relieved to stop, that can be here. If there is any part of you that wants to keep looping because it feels comforting, that can be here too. Either way, you are cared for in this moment. Let attention rest wherever it wants to rest. In the brow point, or in one palm, or in the whole body at once, or nowhere in particular. If the circuit still happens on its own for a while, that is fine. If it fades completely, also fine. And you do not have to decide. You do not have to choose the best place to rest. Whatever your awareness does naturally, it can be enough. And now it can become simple sensing. The sense of being held by what you are resting on. The quilted warmth in the background. The breath coming and going without any help. And in that simple sensing, you might also notice a faint, gentle glow of ease, still lingering at the brow point. Not something to hold on to, just a soft, steady kindness in the background of your mind. And you might notice a quiet warmth in the space around the body. Like the room itself has slowed down with you. Like the air is a little more forgiving now. You might notice how the release feels. Like unclenching something you did not realize you were holding. Like setting down a tiny responsibility. And letting the body be heavy again without any design. And if your mind drifts in and out, that is welcome. If you catch only a few words, that is enough. You are still here. You are still safe. If thoughts float by, you can let them float by. If you follow one for a moment, you can follow it. And when you notice, you can return to the easiest thing. The feeling of being supported. And if you do not return at all, if you simply drift, that is allowed too. The quilted comfort can keep doing its quiet work in the background. No task now. No pattern to maintain. Just rest and soft awareness, doing nothing in particular. And if you sense that gentle boundary of support around you, you can let it remain without thinking about it. Already here, already steady. And that boundary of support can stay exactly as it is. Quiet, steady, already doing its job. The quilted warmth under you continues to hold the full weight of your body. Your heels, your calves, the backs of your thighs. The bowl of the hips. The wide, easy rest of the belly. The ribs can settle. The shoulders can sink without needing to be arranged. The hands can stay wherever they are. The jaw can be unworked. And even if you cannot feel every part clearly, you can still let the idea be true. The body is heavy. The body is supported. The body does not need to help. You can let gravity have the whole thing. Like the quilt is patient enough to take every ounce you give it. Like the surface beneath you has no doubt at all. And from within that heaviness, something else can start to feel possible. Not movement in the muscles, not effort, just attention getting a little lighter. And you do not have to make that lightness happen. You do not have to lift it, or hold it, or steer it. If it comes in its own quiet way, that is enough. As if the body can be a warm anchor at the bottom. And awareness can be a soft glow above it. You do not have to picture it perfectly. You can sense it, or simply allow the words to suggest it. For a moment, you might notice the space just above your forehead. The air above your face. The quiet room above the room. And while the body stays fully held by the quilt, awareness can begin to rise in the gentlest way. Like a feather in still air. Like a breath that floats upward on its own. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. You might feel that the weight stays below. The warmth stays below. And above that, there is simply more space. The drift can be continuous. Smooth, unbroken. No destination you need to reach. No point you need to pass. And if it helps right at the start of this drift, you can remember, just for a moment, nothing to fix, nothing to force. If your mind tries to check what is happening, it does not have to. If a thought appears, it can appear. And then it can thin out again, like mist that does not need to be pushed away. You are allowed to be slightly unfocused here. Allowed to be dreamy. Allowed to lose the thread and find it again without any urgency. And the upward drift continues. As if awareness is a soft point of light, rising through open, dark comfort. Not bright, not sharp, just present. The body stays down in the quilted warmth. heavy and safe. The face stays easy. The throat stays easy. And awareness can float a little higher. Higher in the simplest way. Like rising is the natural thing. If you notice the breath, let it be background. If you do not notice it, that is fine. The drift does not depend on any particular focus. Thoughts can become farther away now. Softer at the edges. More like distant shapes passing through a wide sky. And if a thought pulls you down into a small story for a moment, that is okay. The quilt is still under you. The body is still held. And awareness can return to floating whenever it remembers. The drift remains gentle. Continuous. A smooth upward easing. You might sense that the space around you is kind. Not asking anything. Just allowing. And now, you do not have to do anything at all with the drift. You do not have to hold the image of rising. You can let it fade into a simple openness. Body heavy, resting. Awareness light, spacious. And thoughts coming and going as they please, with no need to follow. And in that openness, you can begin to receive something very simple. Not an effort. More like a slow bath of color, moving through you in a quiet order. If you do not see colors clearly, that is completely fine. You can sense them, or just let the names be soft suggestions. Nothing has to be vivid to be real enough. And if anything like a message comes, it can come in any form. A word, a feeling, a simple knowing. Or nothing at all. You do not need to search. You do not need to understand. Just receive what is already easy to receive. We will move slowly, one center at a time. Each one just a gentle radiance. A soft place to rest awareness. First, a center low in the body. The base. The place that simply knows you belong on the earth. You might imagine a deep red there. Not bright, not demanding. A velvet kind of red. A steady warmth that does not need to move. Let that red be wide. Let it be patient. As if it has all the time in the world to hold a simple feeling of being here. And you can bask in that steadiness. Receiving the quiet message of it, if there is one. I am here. Or just here. No need to repeat it. No need to make it true. Just letting it rest in you like a low ember. And now the next center, a little higher. Low belly. The place of gentle feeling and and soft, creative life. You might sense an orange glow there. Warm and smooth. Like late sunlight through a thin curtain. Not a picture you have to hold. Just an orange quality. A mellow ease, spreading without trying. If any message comes with it, it might be as simple as permission. Permission to feel what you feel without explaining it. Or nothing comes at all. Either way, you are receiving exactly enough. And after these first two tones, you can remember. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Just letting the colors arrive and letting them stay as long as they like. Now moving up again. The center at the solar plexus. Upper belly, the place of personal warmth. Quiet confidence. Here you might imagine yellow. A soft gold, not sharp like a spotlight. More like a gentle dawn that spreads without asking. Let that yellow be kind to you. Let it loosen any tightness around needing to manage everything. As if the yellow simply says, you can rest. And you do not have to do anything with it. You can let it soak in, all by itself. If there is a message here, it does not need words. It can be a feeling of being allowed to take up space from the inside. A quiet inner yes. And then we rise to the center of the chest. heart space, the place that knows how to soften. The place that knows how to include you. Here, a green radiance. Gentle, living green. Like leaves in shade. Like a calm field after rain. Let it be wide across the chest. Not pushing the breath. Not changing anything. Just a soft spread of tenderness. And here, you can do even less. Let the green simply arrive, and let it be received. As if the chest can quietly absorb what is gentle, without effort. And you can receive without reaching. If a message comes, it might be a simple warmth toward yourself. A wordless kindness. Or a quiet emptiness that still feels safe. Now, gently, the center of the throat. The place of truth that does not need to argue. The place of expression that can also be silent. You might sense blue here. Cool and soothing. Like clear evening air. Like water that is perfectly still. Let the blue settle the throat and the tongue. Let it be permission to not explain yourself tonight. Permission to let everything be unfinished. And you can let that blue be received, the way skin receives cool air without trying. No shaping it. No holding it. Just letting it move in and settle. if a message arrives, it can be a simple sense of clarity. Or a single phrase that drifts through and drifts away. You do not have to keep it. You do not have to use it. Now the center between the brows. The space behind the forehead. The place where inner knowing can be quiet and ordinary. Here you might imagine indigo. A deep night blue. Soft at the edges. Like a calm sky with no need to become a story. Let indigo be a gentle spaciousness in the mind. A permission for thoughts to be distant. Not fought. Not followed. Just far enough away to lose their grip. And if any message comes from this place, it might not even be about anything. It might simply be a sense of okayness. The feeling that you can stop checking. And again, gently, you can remember. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. No need to hunt for meaning. The receiving is enough. The center at the crown. The top of the head. The place where awareness can feel open and unheld while still safe. You might sense violet here. Or a soft white with a violet tint. A luminous quiet. Not bright. Just wide. Let it be like a gentle radiance that does not press down. It simply surrounds and you receive. It simply opens and you rest inside the opening. And even here, there is nothing to get right. You can let the light be the one that does the work of arriving. If a message comes here, it can be almost nothing. A sense of being connected to life without needing to define it. A feeling of being allowed to be small and also part of something wide. And if nothing comes, that is also perfect. The wide violet can still be soothing. The open white can still be gentle. Now, without changing the order, you can let the whole spectrum feel present at once. Not as a task, more like a soft blend. Red low, orange in the belly, yellow in the upper belly, green in the chest, blue in the throat, indigo behind the forehead, violet at the crown, no need to hold each one separately. Let them be a single atmosphere. A soft rainbow presence. Wide and quiet and easy to live inside. And if any final message wants to drift through, it can drift through now. You do not have to catch it. You do not have to remember it. It can pass through like light through a room. You are simply receiving. Simply resting in what is gentle. Simply letting awareness stay wide enough. a single quiet glow. Still present, even if you stop noticing. You can let yourself drift in that. And now, we do not have to keep track of any of that. The colors can continue to soften until they are less like separate tones and more like one simple feeling of light. Not a picture, not a performance, just an atmosphere you can rest inside. You might sense it as warmth, or as a quiet glow, or as open space with nothing you need to do in it. And if your mind tries to measure it, or name it, or check whether it is happening, that is okay. That is just the mind being the mind. You do not have to follow it anywhere. You can return very simply to the feeling of light. Or even simpler, to the sense that you are being held. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Let the body stay heavy and still. And let awareness be wide. Wide enough that thoughts can come and go at the edges. And you can let the light be uncomplicated. No shape you have to keep. Just a soft presence that continues, even when you are not paying attention. If you like, you can imagine one quiet comfort, just for a moment. As if a quilted cradle of warmth is simply around you. Not tight, not pressing, just a steady softness, letting you be exactly where you are. And you can rest there. Inside that warmth. Inside that light. And from here, we renew the intention very lightly. Not as a task, more like a small turning of the heart toward what matters. You might let this be true in the simplest way. I am safe. I can let go. No need to repeat it back. No need to convince yourself. Just letting the words land wherever they land. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And if it helps, you can feel that quilted cradle of warmth again, still here. Doing nothing. Holding nothing tightly. Just a quiet assurance around you as you rest. And now, let those words dissolve back into sensation. Into the simple feeling of light, or space, or warmth. You might notice the light as a slow, even glow. Or as a softness behind the eyes. Or as a calm brightness that does not ask you to look at it. If anything wants to open in you, it can open. And if nothing opens, that is just as good. You are still allowed to rest. Sometimes rest looks like blankness. Sometimes it looks like a faint shimmer. Sometimes it is only comfort, and that is enough. And if at any point the openness feels too wide, you always have a return that costs nothing. Just think of the body resting. The weight of you supported. The simple fact that you are here and held by the surface beneath you. No need to move. Just remember the body resting. And you can let that remembering be part of the holding, too. As if the surface beneath you and the quilted cradle of warmth around you are agreeing together. You do not have to manage anything right now. Then, when it feels natural, you can let that reminder fade and return to the feeling of light again. And once more, softly, the intention can be renewed. Like a whisper inside that does not require an answer. It is okay to be here. It is okay to let go. Let it be imperfect. Let it be quiet. Let it be more like a mood than a statement. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Now we release even the idea of doing this. You do not have to follow my words closely. You do not have to stay with the thread. If you drift, you drift. Just the feeling of light. Or just the feeling of being held in warmth. Or just the quiet of not needing anything. And the light can keep softening all by itself. Less noticeable. Less defined. Still kind. thoughts rise up again, you can let them be like distant shapes in a wide sky. Not important. Not urgent. Just passing. If you need the return, it is still here. Think of the body resting. Then let that thought go too. And one last time, only if it feels kind, the intention. You are safe enough right now. You can soften your grip. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. And you can simply bask here for a little longer. In light, in warmth, in the quiet sense of being held without needing to notice every moment of it. Now the words can thin out. And the light can be just light. Spacious. Quiet. You can rest inside it. And if you stop noticing, it can keep holding you anyway. Just drifting. You do not have to do anything now. If sleep is near, you can let it take you. If sleep is not near yet, that is okay too. No need to listen closely. No need to follow. You can simply drift with the sound around you. And if a thought comes, it can come. If it goes, it can go. And if you notice notice yourself trying to do this the right way, you can let that soften too. You do not have to make anything happen. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. The body can keep resting. The mind can do whatever it does. If the mind wanders, that can be part of resting. If it goes quiet, that can be part of resting too. You can let everything be a little unfinished tonight. A little unworked out. And you can let the surface beneath you keep holding you without needing your help. You are supported, even if you stop paying attention. You are safe enough right now. Safe enough to let the jaw loosen. Safe enough to let the shoulders be heavy. Safe enough to stop bracing for anything at all. And if you wake a little, that is okay. And if you drift a little, that is okay. There is nothing you need to prove with either one. You can let the night carry you without effort. The body resting. The night carrying you. Nothing else required. Just drifting